What if I told you that Amish families feed themselves year-round from 2 acres while conventional farmers struggle to profit from 500? That they produce more food with horses and hand tools than neighbors with $300,000 tractors? Traditional Amish farming systems have been refined for over 300 years to maximize output while minimizing labor. And today I'm going to show you 10 methods that multiply productivity. Crop rotation on steroids. 7 to 10-year rotations that eliminate pest problems and build fertility, while modern farmers rotate every 2 to 3 years and fight constant battles. Amish families keep detailed records passed down through generations, documenting exactly what grew, where, and what followed. The extended rotations break pest and disease cycles completely because insects and pathogens waiting for host plants starve out over multiple years. Modern research confirms that longer rotations reduce pest and disease pressure by 40 to 60% compared to short rotations. The labor savings compound because farmers spend minimal time spraying, troubleshooting, or fighting outbreaks that prevention eliminates. Soil fertility builds rather than depletes because diverse crops with different root depths and nutrient needs prevent mining of specific minerals. Industrial monoculture requires constant chemical inputs to replace what single crops extract year after year. Your garden becomes easier to manage as rotations prevent problems before they start. Intensive bed systems. Permanent raised beds never walked on that produce 2 to 3 times more per square foot than conventional rows. Amish gardens use 3 to 4 foot wide beds with permanent paths between, establishing them once and maintaining the structure for decades. The critical insight is preventing soil compaction because roots penetrate deeply in loose soil, accessing water and nutrients that compacted soil blocks. Modern research shows compaction reduces yields by 30 to 50%, even when other factors are ideal. After initial setup, beds require no tilling because the soil structure maintains itself through organic matter additions and root action. Horse-drawn cultivation works paths between beds without ever touching growing areas. The space efficiency allows more food in less area because intensive planting eliminates wasted space between wide rows. Your garden shrinks in size while production increases because every square foot contributes to harvest. Succession planting mastery. New plantings every 7 to 14 days that create continuous harvest, instead of overwhelming gluts followed by nothing. Amish families use detailed calendars based on moon phases and accumulated multi-generational timing knowledge. The system extends harvest season by months, because as one planting finishes, the next reaches maturity. Labor becomes manageable because steady, small harvests replace overwhelming processing marathons, where bushels of produce ripen simultaneously. Storage needs decrease because fresh eating stays available rather than preserving everything at once. Modern vegetable gardens typically plant once in spring, harvest everything in August, then struggle with preservation. Weekly lettuce plantings provide salads for 4 months instead of 2 weeks of abundance, followed by bolting. Your harvest transforms from feast or famine to steady abundance that matches consumption rather than overwhelming it. Interplanting and companion. Planting multiple crops occupying the same space simultaneously increase production by 50 to 80% per acre through stacked functions. Amish farmers practice 3 sisters plus dozens of other refined combinations, learned through centuries of observation. The plants provide mutual benefits including support structures, shade, nitrogen fixation, and pest confusion. Corn grows tall, providing trellis for climbing beans while squash spreads below, shading soil and deterring raccoons. The beans fix atmospheric nitrogen, feeding the heavy-feeding corn and squash. Modern research confirms these traditional combinations genuinely improve yields compared to monocultures. Tomatoes interplanted with basil and marigolds see fewer pest problems and better fruit set from improved pollinator activity. Labor decreases because plants support and protect each other rather than requiring separate infrastructure and interventions. Diversity confuses pests that locate host plants by sight and smell, reducing damage without spraying. Your garden becomes a self-supporting ecosystem where plants work together rather than competing. Seed saving and selection. Saving seeds from best performers yearly creates varieties perfectly adapted to specific conditions over generations. Amish communities exchange seeds at gatherings, maintaining genetic diversity while selecting for local success. Plants adapt to soil type, climate patterns, and pest pressure through continuous selection pressure. Labor requirements decrease over years because adapted varieties need less coddling, watering, and intervention than generic commercial seeds. Cost savings eliminate seed purchases after initial investment, with one tomato providing hundreds of seeds for future years. 300 years of localized selection has created Amish heirloom varieties that outperform hybrids in specific conditions they've adapted to. Modern hybrid seeds cannot be saved because second generation loses parent traits, forcing annual repurchase. Genetic diversity in saved seeds maintains resilience against changing conditions, while hybrids are genetically uniform and vulnerable. Your garden becomes easier annually as seeds adapt to your specific soil and climate through selection. The animal-powered fertility cycle, closed-loop system where horses work fields producing manure, chickens sanitize that manure while adding nitrogen, and aged compost feeds crops that feed animals, creating continuous fertility without purchased inputs. The Amish approach treats every animal as multifunctional component rather than single-purpose livestock. Horses provide field power, transportation, and high-carbon manure ideal for gardens. The manure is cooler than cow manure, meaning it won't burn plants when fresh and contains excellent carbon for soil structure. Mobile chicken coops follow horses, with birds scratching through manure for fly larvae, weed seeds, and undigested grain. This scratching breaks up manure piles, adds nitrogen-rich chicken droppings, and sanitizes pastures while producing eggs and meat. The aged combination becomes premium compost applied to gardens and fields. Crop residues circle back as animal feed, closing the loop completely. Traditional practice refined over 300 years creates fertility engines that improve over time rather than depleting. Labor savings are massive because animals do the fertilizing, spreading, and incorporating without machinery or hauling chemicals. Soil health improves continuously through organic matter addition, creating increasing yields over decades. Modern industrial farming separates crop and animal production, creating pollution problems where animal waste concentrates while crop fields require synthetic inputs. Cost savings eliminate fertilizer purchases completely while improving results. Research shows continuous compost application builds soil organic matter and fertility exponentially over years. Implementation starts small, with a few chickens transforming garden fertility even without horses. Your soil becomes a living system that feeds itself rather than requiring constant external inputs to maintain productivity. Community work, frolics, shared labor events where 20 to 30 people accomplish in one day what one person couldn't finish in weeks, rotating through community members' farms throughout the season. Barn raisings demonstrate the principle dramatically, but the same approach applies to plowing, planting, harvesting, and food preservation. The Amish schedule these events annually with everyone participating according to ability. Spring plowing and planting frolics prepare entire farms in single days. Fall harvest events bring in crops at peak ripeness, rather than letting quality decline while one family struggles alone. Food preservation days process hundreds of jars of canned goods, butcher livestock, or make sauerkraut in quantities impossible individually. Infrastructure building constructs fences, sheds, and root cellars that enable better food production and storage. Labor multiplication means one person's overwhelming task becomes the community's afternoon project. A corn harvest requiring a family 2 weeks of exhausting work gets completed in one day with 25 people working together. Traditional practice combines biblical gleaning principles with Germanic communal work culture brought to America 300 years ago. The social structure facilitates knowledge transfer as young people learn from experienced farmers while working side by side. Women cook huge communal meals together, transferring food preservation and preparation skills. Modern conventional farmers struggle in isolation, lacking support when challenges arise or labor demands spike. The mental health benefits prevent isolation and depression common in rural farming communities. These hidden productivity gains come from shared knowledge as farmers discuss what's working, trading information about varieties, techniques, and timing. Implementation starts with 2 to 3 neighboring families scheduling seasonal workdays, building from there as trust develops. Your overwhelming spring planting or fall harvest becomes a manageable social event where work flows through conversation and shared effort rather than solitary grinding labor. Intensive spring garden systems. 1 to 2 acre intensive gardens near the house that feed families of 8 to 10 people vegetables year round while generating surplus for sale. The location close to the house enables easy daily access for harvesting, watering, and observation. Permanent infrastructure, including raised beds, trellises, cold frames, and adjacent root cellars, gets established once and maintained indefinitely. Women and children manage the garden while men handle field crops, distributing labor across the family. Succession planting creates continuous harvest from spring through fall with something ready to pick daily. Multiple crops occupy the same beds per season through interplanting and succession, maximizing space efficiency. Yeah, the layout uses permanent raised beds 4 feet wide and any length with 30-inch paths between for wheelbarrow access. Vertical trellises support beans, peas, cucumbers, and tomatoes, multiplying production from the same ground space. Cold frames extend the season at both ends, protecting crops from late spring and early fall frosts. Root cellars adjacent to gardens store harvest without refrigeration for winter use. Amish culture designates the garden as the wife's domain, planned and managed with meticulous attention to detail. Plant density reaches 2 to 4 times conventional spacing, using intensive methods that work because soil is never compacted and fertility is continuously maintained. Something gets planted every week from spring through fall, filling gaps as early crops finish and maintaining constant production. The yield focus prioritizes feeding the family first with surplus sold at markets or roadside stands for income. Labor savings from close proximity enable quick daily harvest without travel time, and problems get noticed and addressed before becoming serious. Pennsylvania Dutch intensive gardening, refined over 300 years, created these systems that modern research confirms as highly productive. Water efficiency improves because proximity to the house makes watering easy, while heavy mulching reduces needs significantly. Soil fertility builds through continuous compost and manure additions, with beds receiving attention multiple times per year. Example yields demonstrate that 2,000 square feet of intensive garden feeds a family of 8 all vegetables year-round when managed properly. Now, the abundant production drives the canning and storage culture, with families putting up hundreds of quarts for winter. Modern comparison shows suburban yards growing resource-intensive lawns, while Amish gardens of similar size feed entire families. Implementation begins with 400 square feet of intensive bed, mastering the techniques, then expanding as confidence and skill develop. Your backyard transforms from ornamental space to productive system that reduces grocery bills while improving food quality and family nutrition. Season extension without electricity. Passive solar design plus thermal mass creates 6 to 9 month growing seasons without heated greenhouses or electric bills. Cold frames made from wooden frames with old window sashes or clear plastic tops extend spring 4 to 6 weeks earlier and fall 4 to 6 weeks later. The frames sit on the south side of raised beds, opening on warm days and closing at night to trap heat. Greens, radishes, and carrots grow all winter in many climates when protected by cold frames. Hoop houses constructed from simple PVC or wood frames with plastic covering function as unheated greenhouses that extend seasons dramatically. Thermal mass from water jugs, stone walls, or dark soil absorbs daytime heat and releases it at night, preventing freezing. No supplemental heat is needed because passive solar gain plus thermal mass maintains temperatures 20 to 30 degrees above outside air. Ventilation on sunny days prevents overheating that would damage crops. Year-round greens stay available while tomato and pepper seasons extend months beyond normal outdoor growing. European cold frame techniques brought to America 300 years ago were refined by Amish farmers maximizing passive solar while minimizing purchased inputs. Labor impact is significant because fresh food available year-round reduces the amount requiring energy-intensive canning and freezing. Cost involves one-time infrastructure investment with minimal maintenance over decades of use. Amish innovation focuses on maximizing free solar energy while minimizing any purchased inputs or ongoing costs. Cold frame lettuce harvested December through March provides fresh greens when conventional gardens lie frozen and dormant. Succession planting integrates with season extension by planting cool season crops as warm season crops finish in fall. Root crops, including carrots, beets, and turnips, overwinter in cold frames, sweetening from cold exposure while remaining harvest ready. Modern heated greenhouses require constant energy inputs and ongoing costs that most home gardeners cannot justify. Implementation starts with a single 4 by 8 foot cold frame, planting cold hardy greens in fall and learning the ventilation management. Your garden season doubles or triples from passive solar techniques that cost minimal money but require understanding of temperature management and appropriate crop selection. Pest management, prevention through diversity and observation that results in 5 to 10% crop loss to pests versus conventional farming's 20 to 30% loss to chemical-resistant pests. Amish philosophy starts with healthy soil and creates healthy plants that resist pest damage through vigor and natural defenses. Crop diversity prevents pest specialization because insects seeking specific host plants find them scattered among many other plants, rather than concentrated in monocultures. Rotation starves pests, waiting in soil for host plants that never return to the same location for 7 to 10 years. Beneficial insect habitat gets maintained through hedgerows, flowering plants, and deliberate companion planting of herbs and flowers. Hand-picking occurs when problems appear. Utilizing abundant family labor, including children learning observation and natural history. Livestock integration employs chickens to eat pests and ducks to control slugs and snails in gardens. Timing plantings to avoid peak pest pressure uses multi-generational knowledge of exactly when pests appear each year. Daily garden walks enable noticing problems early when interventions are simple and effective. 300 years of observation created detailed knowledge of pest cycles passed down through families. The culture knows exactly when cabbage moths lay eggs, when Colorado beetles emerge, and when squash vine borers attack. Planting times get adjusted to miss critical pest windows, accepting that some crops must wait for safer periods. Specific examples demonstrate practical application of these principles. Cabbage worms get excluded by row covers during the 3-week egg-laying period, then covers come off for the rest of the season. Colorado potato beetles get hand-picked into kerosene cans, with children competing to collect the most. Squash vine borers are managed through succession planting and accepting some loss rather than intensive spraying. Aphids are controlled by attracting ladybugs through flowering herbs planted deliberately. Cutworms are blocked by collars around transplants, while chickens scratch through soil for pupae before planting. Traditional practice based on observation rather than chemical intervention was refined over 300 years. Labor gets distributed across family members, with children handpicking pests as an educational activity that's genuinely useful. Chemical-free farming is imperative, both for health concerns and cost savings, since purchased inputs must be minimized. Yield protection is better than conventional farming because chemical resistance hasn't developed in pest populations. Soil health provides primary defense with pest-resistant plants growing from fertile living soil. Companion planting uses marigolds, nasturtiums, and herbs to repel or confuse pests naturally. Acceptance of small losses prevents the chemical dependency cycle where spraying kills beneficial insects, creating worse problems. Modern industrial monocultures require constant spraying because pest populations explode in simplified ecosystems lacking predators. Community knowledge sharing means observations about what works locally get passed around informally. Implementation starts with daily observation habits, hand-picking visible pests, and focusing on soil health as the foundation of plant health. Your garden becomes a balanced ecosystem where pest problems are minor inconveniences rather than catastrophic threats requiring constant intervention and expense. These 10 Amish farming methods prove that productivity comes from intelligent systems rather than expensive inputs and machinery. 300 years of refinement created techniques that work with nature rather than fighting it, preventing problems through diversity and observation, rather than reacting with chemicals and technology. The 5 times productivity multiplier comes from stacking techniques. Intensive beds double yields per square foot. Succession planting extends seasons, and interplanting fits multiple crops in the same space. Season extension adds months of production, and continuously improving soil increases yields year after year. The less work paradox resolves when you understand that prevention requires less effort than fixing problems. Community multiplies individual capacity.